Hey folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, whatever the case may be. Sorry it's been a while since my last video, but lots of things have been going on at home and with my health and whatnot. There's also been lots going on in the YouTube world, but finally got a chance to sit down and let you know exactly what, well, not exactly, but anyways, so this video I've so far introduced you to the YouTube channel What the Hales, and also introduced you to one set of his neighbors. There's another set that I'll talk about in another video, and I'll touch base a little bit about where they live in Ohio, because their main residence is in Ohio, but the majority of what's been going on with them, with these neighbors and whatnot, is happening in Florida. So this video is about, I titled the page in my notebook, Pro Hales. These are other YouTube channels that have become interested in all of the legal shenanigans to do with between What the Hales and their neighbors. And then there's a bunch of YouTube channels that were created because these individuals wanted to give their version, their view of what's going on, and to share this out there and whatnot, which is like what I'm doing. But I will talk about other channels as well, not just and other things also, things that interest me. But anyways, so to start off on my list, I cannot remember how I learned about this. I think it was revealed. It was spoken about in one of the What the Hales videos about this other YouTube channel called the DUI Plus guy. DUI standing for driving under the influence, so like legal, a lawyer, an attorney, and his name is Larry Foreman. Not all YouTubers share their actual real names. Some just go by the name of their channel and whatnot, and I'll get to that as we progress. But anyways, so the DUI Plus guy, or Larry Foreman, he was the first one that I recall covering the case. And all he really did was he talked about what was going on in the very beginning of the case. He got in on it right at the very beginning, 2 years ago, when Jeremy had gone. He had looked into getting a restraining order in Florida against his neighbors, but he was informed by an attorney. I believe it was an attorney. If I remember correctly, it was an attorney. Explained to him that there has to be like a minimum of 2 or 3 complaints before he can, or something like that, before he could actually apply for, petition for a restraining order. So instead, he went back home to what is referred to as Hales headquarters in Ohio. They've got this big, beautiful piece of land, big, beautiful house that they purchased not long after they bought the land in Florida. And they're good friends with the sheriff of the town. It's a village in Ohio that they live in. And they're good friends with the mayor of the village and good friends with the sheriff and all the police officers and a bunch of their neighbors. They have, like, nobody has anything bad to say about them in Ohio. But apparently Lynette, one of the neighbors from Florida, reached out to the mayor of the town, of the village in Ohio, and said a bunch of bad stuff about Jeremy and saying he's just going to cause problems for your village. You really should try and get rid of him type stuff. I don't remember all of the details, but it made, with her reaching out to the mayor, it made it easier for Jeremy to get a restraining order from a judge on Ohio. So that's what he did 2 years ago. He was granted a restraining order by a judge in Ohio, and immediately after all of that, Lynette went to the courts in Florida and tried to get a restraining order against him, but she was denied. So she tried again, was denied, tried again. It was either the third or fourth time that she was actually approved to be seen by a judge, and the judge that she ended up seeing was the district judge or whatever, named Judge Craig DeThomasis. And with how this particular judge handled the case, that's what piqued the interest of Larry Foreman, and then other YouTubers that watch legal cases and all of this stuff, because he was acting. Lynette was appearing as pro se, which means representing herself. She didn't have a lawyer. She was representing herself with this case, trying to get a restraining order. Jeremy and George, once they received the paperwork for their restraining order, they left their place in Ohio and they drove to their place in Florida. They got to like the town or wherever. Where they live in Florida is also a village because the population is so small. I think the village in Ohio is like 600 and the village in Florida is like 100. But they took the paperwork for the restraining order to the nearest sheriff's station in Florida, so that the police there had a copy of the restraining order. And as soon as, like, they went to leave the sheriff's station, and the parking space closest to the front entrance of the sheriff's station had John and Lynette parked there. They were parked right there. So Jeremy and George couldn't leave to go to their truck. So they actually had to have a police officer go out and tell them that they had to leave. So they did. They left that parking spot, but then they drove around the parking lot and they drove around to where Jeremy had his truck parked. And they park they park far much further away because they have a massive sized truck. It's a huge diesel truck, and they're also pulling a 20-foot long trailer, utility trailer, full of stuff. So they park further away because they end up taking up lots of parking spaces because they can't park properly, right? So they went and they parked next to Jeremy's truck. So he had to get a police officer to tell them again they had to leave the actual parking lot. And instead of, because they were breaking the restraining order for not leaving immediately, they should have technically been arrested right then and there. But they weren't. cops told him, just go away. So then Jeremy and George were able to leave and go home. Meanwhile, so it goes to, so then they eventually get receive paperwork, a subpoena for them to appear in court to do with this restraining order that Lynette filed for. So Jeremy got an attorney named Mark Feather. And Judge DeThomasis immediately was showing bias against Jeremy's attorney, because Jeremy's attorney, Mark Feather, and DeThomasis, they have a history from a prior history. And so the judge was helping Lynette like an attorney when he shouldn't have been, because he's the judge. But because of just how he was conducting himself in the courtroom, how he was treating Jeremy and his attorney, Mark Feather, and how he was treating Lynette in the courtroom, it was terrible. Just terrible. And then I think it was after the second hearing, the judge, Lynette, after the second hearing, immediately after the second hearing was done, Lynette went like running back into the courthouse and was saying that Jeremy's attorney, Mark Feather, tried bribing her with like $50,000 to drop the case, drop the charges, whatever, to drop the case. And it was based on her claiming that he was trying to bribe her, that she was granted a temporary restraining order against Jeremy and George. So because of that, Jeremy was had restrictions on him, but Lynette and John still had restrictions on them. And Jeremy, he followed the restrictions. One of the restrictions basically was he can't be within 500 feet of their property, which means a chunk of his property he could not access because it's within the 500 feet. And because because of the layout of his driveways compared to their property, which is like right across the street from a chunk of his property, because normally he would pull out of one of his driveways and drive past their place to go to another piece of property that he ended up buying. He ended up buying a piece of property. It's an old schoolhouse, and it's got a few acres of land as well. And so the quickest, easiest, safest, most efficient way for him to get from one place to the next is to drive down right past their house, their property. And but with this restraining order, he can't. So instead, he has to go in the other direction, which takes him so that he has to go around their he has to go around the long way, which is also takes him down a very dangerous highway that's known for lots of traffic accidents. So anyways, he follows that, and he does that. Also, the restraining order against him, he's not allowed to have any firearms in his possession, and he's not allowed to be around anyone who has firearms on them. So he had to give up all of his firearms. So I think what he did was he just gave them to some of his employees and had them put them away somewhere, or had them all sent back to their property in Ohio or whatever. I don't know, don't remember. But because he couldn't be around people who were armed, that meant he couldn't hire private security for events. He couldn't host events with private security because the private security would have to be armed for protection and safety and whatnot. So he wasn't able to do, he's no longer, while having the restraining order on him, he couldn't host events. The winter before all of this occurred, he had actually hosted an event at the schoolhouse. He had a Christmas party type thing. A bunch of people sent gifts as Christmas presents for the kids. Jeremy took a bunch of his employees, and they went over to, I believe it was the Five and Dime or Five Below. I think it's called Five Below. It's a store. They were given, the staff, they kept the store closed, to the public, and, Jeremy and his employees, they were given, I think it was half an hour to buy as much stuff as they could. They were clearing shelves, they just clearing shelves and clearing the aisles, just grabbing toys like crazy and ringing them up, and they were ringing so many things through that the computers were having difficulty keeping up, and a couple of them, they were freezing, and I think they spent $20,000. No, it was most likely more than $20,000, but they spent several $1,000s on toys at that store for Christmas. They had a couple from the village volunteered to be Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus, and the main auditorium room of the schoolhouse, they filled it with shelves full of toys and all kinds of all down the hallway was decorated and toys, and they were even though it was raining that night, there were so many people there that they were giving away gifts for, I don't know, till almost midnight. It was sometime between 10 and midnight. I cannot remember the exact time frame, but people were standing out in the rain for hours on end in order for their kids to be able to go in and see Santa and Mrs. Claus and get gifts and get goodie bags, and it was great, and a bunch of people were dressed up, and it was great. Everybody loved it. They had a blast. The people that were there, they had volunteers from the village that helped with setting it up and offered to be they had special elves that would take the family, each family through to all the different, through all of the stuff and whatnot, and it was great. It was great. But because of this restraining order, this temporary, and it was a temporary restraining order, they couldn't do that a second year. They did that in 2023, but they couldn't do it for 2024 because of the temporary restraining order. And because of the temporary restraining order, Lynette's saying this about Jeremy's attorney, Mark Feather, because Jeremy said straight out, and he still says straight out, he will never give them, they will never see a dime of his money. They don't deserve it because of what they have put him and him and George and their employees through. And but because of that, Jeremy had to get another attorney. So he ended up hiring this other attorney named Randy Shockett. And Randy Shockett, he basically right off the bat started trying to get the judge to recuse himself. And that was just basically the judge stepping down from the case, from dealing with the case because of being biased, and the judge refused. So Randy tried a second time, he refused. The third time, he refused again, so he put in what's called a writ of prohibition, which basically means it goes to the higher-ups, because with a request for recusal, that's basically just a letter to the judge saying, this is why I think you should step down from running the case. And the judge was like, no, I don't believe I'm doing anything wrong, basically. But the writ of prohibition goes to higher up, to like his boss, to the judge's boss. And so the judge's boss read it over and looked it over and said, yes, just the first recusal alone should have been enough. Well, the first one should have made. But anyways, because of it, this Judge DeThomasis, is no longer he has to recuse himself from any and all future cases that involve any parties in it, like John, Lynette, Jeremy, or George. So anyways, when it as soon as plus during that time, Lynette went through Randy did a deposition of Lynette, and the day that she finally appeared for her deposition, because she managed to avoid the deposition, her deposition twice before that, but she finally got caught and got stuck doing the deposition, and it was an all-day deposition, and that on that specific day, she finally was getting legal representation. She didn't have it yet, but she did end up getting it. And this was supposed to be about... Anyways. So she did her deposition, but during her deposition, she kept saying that, like, she wants to put a stay on it, or have it put a hold on the deposition to do it later after she's got legal representation, or I can't remember the exact terminology, but she ended up getting her own. She ended up finally getting an attorney, and who turns out to be a friend of the judge. During when she was getting the deposition done, she was DeThomasis was still the judge, and she ended up with the attorney Josh Silverman, and because Silverman and DeThomasis are friends, DeThomasis was more amenable to listening to Silverman than he was listening to, by that time, Randy Shockett, Jeremy's attorney. Oh, I just noticed I forgot I need to take my medication. And I don't have anything to drink. Anyways, I'll take it in a minute. So anyways, as soon as, Judge Thomas's ended up being replaced with another judge, and as soon as, as soon as the case was brought before this new judge, Josh Silverman dropped the case. So basically, by that time, the temporary restraining order against Jeremy and George had been in place for 11 months when it was finally dropped. So then there was no longer a restraining order against them, but like 11 months. And it was because of Detomasis, and because of all of and because of just the ridiculous chaos of the court hearings, it piqued the interest of these people on these other YouTubers, starting with Larry Foreman. He brought out a bunch of videos about it, and then this reporter called Megan Fox, not the actress, but the news reporter, Megan Fox. She also, the judge's antics piqued her interest as well. And then there's another guy that that goes by That Umbrella Guy, or Tug for short, TUG. They got in on it, and then there's another one called Shizzy Wiznut. He's married to an attorney. His wife is an attorney, but Shizzy Wiznut is yeah. So anyways, these people are quite the characters. So Tug and Megan started and like they preferred to. So Tug, Megan, and Shizzy, the majority of their videos are live streams, and they interact with the viewers, and they also have created songs based on some of the stuff that's been going on with the legal case and whatnot. Anyways, because of this case, Megan and Tug have become co-hosts on each other's live channels, and they do cover other cases as well, and same with Shizzy. But the majority of over the last 2 years, Tug and Megan and Shizzy, like Shizzy wasn't all that. Like, he did a little bit about the What the Hell stuff for a bit, but Tug and Megan, they were covering it a lot. But then there was also another case that I learned about through their channels, and it's I'll talk about that case in another video. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go and figure out what to talk about in my next video with you guys. Like, I've got all this stuff to do with the pro hails, so I'm gonna so far I've just talked about like how these people started to get involved. I'll go into more in depth into these particular YouTube channels, and like the ones that I follow and the ones that I know about, and talk about them some more too. So this is my way of introducing you to not just the What the Hell's case, but introducing you to the YouTube channels that you can learn more about the What the Hell's case through by watching their videos. A lot of them have playlists to specifically to do with What the Hell's. Other channels, there's a lot of smaller channels that so far that all they've covered so far is What the Hell's so far. But they are working on. But I know as time goes on, they will start spreading their wings and covering other stuff. But I'm gonna go and check out the links in the description. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.